Get some hammer, pliers, channel locks, and flat head screwdriver, please.
Wow, dude, who do you think you are?
Sam's Garage is brought to you by Brothers Truck Parts. On this week's episode of Sam's Garage, Sam teams back up with the guys from Brothers Truck Parts, teaching us how to replace worn-out rocker panels on a 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck. Sam and Kevin will install the exhaust system on the Buick Skylark. Then Sam and Doug will install the interior back in the Hudson Hornet. Sam and the guys from Brothers Truck Parts will demonstrate how to replace rocker panels on your 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC trucks.
All right, you see we got our 1972 C10 pickup truck here. Now we've already done rust repair on the fender and the door, and Dave and I have already hung the door, made sure it fits before we go on to the next crucial part, which is the rocker panel. Now, tell the people out there what steps to take to get this rocker panel cut out.
What you want to do is you want to remember that there's a lot of structure behind the rocker panel. So when we're going to cut this out, sometimes what people want to do, they'll just want to get a spot weld cutter. Very important tool for doing something like this, makes it a lot easier, and they'll just cut all the spot welds off and they'll try to knock this off all at one time. But the problem with that is that you can do damage to the structure underneath. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the mass of it away and then take it off, and then we'll gingerly remove what's left over. What you have to remember though is that this piece right here underneath the pillar or the rocker has a piece of metal that goes about right here like this. So we have to make sure we're cutting about 3/4 of an inch or an inch over. And when we're cutting, we're not taking the blade and burying it all the way down. We're just going to cut through the thickness of the metal in case we mistake and possibly hit the metal underneath. So here I'll cut about here. Here we'll come over about like this. On the bottom, we'll just cut straight across. We'll bring this up around here. And then when this mass is off, the rest of it I can just gingerly take off and not do any damage.
Very good point. And while you're under here and you got everything removed, take a look at the structure and see if there's anything else that you can replace while you're in here. And this piece right here, we're going to go ahead and replace. And the Brothers Truck sells all these metal and pieces that you need to reconstruct your truck. Let's go ahead and get this thing cut out.
Right on. All right, so as we can see that this here has just rusted all the way, and this is barely holding on right here. So I don't really have to worry about being all that ginger about that, because I'm gonna go ahead and replace that. Don't get too aggressive though, because you don't want to cut away anything that you need to. We're gonna have the same problem going on here in the back, so I don't have to worry about this too much either. And I can also see that this inner panel has been repaired and incorrectly. So I can just go ahead and cut this guy away too. But when you do that, you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind you need about a 3/8 or I don't know, 1/2 inch maybe up in right here. So keep all those things in mind when you're cutting this stuff off so you can put it back in exactly the right spot. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut this off a little bit uglier than I normally would because it's pretty ugly.
All right, guys, so here's a perfect example of shoddy work on top of shoddy work, correct?
Unbelievable.
Now explain what you're coming across here.
Basically just straight up criminal behavior. This is thievery, anybody that did this. This is just for aesthetics and that's it. It doesn't have any purpose on there at all. It won't hold a cab and nothing.
And see, this brings up 2 points. One, whenever you're purchasing an old classic car and it's something that you want to make a project out of, it's very important to get on your hands and knees and really do an inspection. Maybe take it to your local mechanic and have them put it up on a lift and really take a look at it so that you may have seen some of this work underneath. Also, remember guys, when you're getting a quote from the body shop, you may think it's high, but this is the type of work that these people have to do. So in some cases, it's very justified.
Very justified.
When we come back, Sam will continue with the team from Brothers Truck Parts replacing the rocker panels on their project truck. Sam's Garage is brought to you by Brothers Truck Parts. Sam's Garage is brought to you by these fine companies. Welcome back. Sam and Brothers Truck Parts wrap up the rocker panel repair job on the project truck.
So I've cut away massive amounts of rust and bad repair. I've got my panel up here, and when you'll know it's in place, because you can see that it's going to match this hump right here, you'll notice there's a groove right here it'll match, and right up in here I can get it to match. So now that I've got it on here like this, I've shoved it as far to the original piece of metal. I left this area right here on the original. This is shoved all the way up on there. I've just got a tack weld in the front and a tack weld in the back to hold it in place. Now I'm going to use this as a scribe or a pattern, if you will, to just simply cut right down here, and then I should have a perfect match. We're going to find out though.
Well, Dave, looks like you got a lot of work done, and I saw you out there, and I felt so bad for you. These are just some of the pieces Dave had to cut off this truck in multiple passes. He's got multiple hours of just one rocker panel, and he hasn't even gone back on with it. This was just prepping him to get him ready to put the rocker panel back on. So next time you guys get a quote at the body shop, don't beat them up so much, because the repair is most likely justified, right?
Yeah, it is in this case, that's for sure.
I mean, you do this a lot at home, and you know how much time it takes and how, you have to be so...
very precise. If I get this off, let's say 3/8 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch even maybe, the door's not going to shut.
So that's all the way you did, just like everything else you do. When you put the panel up, he tack welds it. That way he keeps it in place, so when he does his cut, he knows that cut is nice and straight, and it's exactly where it's supposed to be.
Measure, measure, measure.
You did a good job. Now we're ready to go ahead and put the outer rocker panel on, so make sure you come back to see how this is going to get together, and then we're going to go ahead and reassemble the side of the truck, and we'll be ready to go to the other side.
So I want you to take a look at this right here. This is what's known as a patch panel clamp. You're going to take this bar right here, and it just fits right into that hole. So what we're going to do is we'll take it, we'll put it in there, we'll put this underneath and tighten it all up, and then that's going to go ahead and hold our panel on here. You can use magnets and miscellaneous things like that, but this is really going to do a better job for you, and it's going to keep your welds and everything nice and straight. So now that I've got this up, I'll go ahead and grind off a few spots where I'm going to tack weld it. I'll take it off, I'll grind it down some more, and I'll tack weld it. We want to keep our heat down. We don't want to warp this, so take your time. This is known your B pillar, that's going to be your A pillar. And all I'm going to do on this is I just cut off the amount of rust that I needed to. I just put this right on up here, and you'll notice that this notch right here fits right into there. So you're just going to sit this here, get a magic marker, you mark the back, and then you know where to cut it. Now, just because the line's right here, don't cut it right there. You want to go up a little bit and then trim it, then go ahead and put it up there again and trim until you get it right. If you get this line off and you cut down too far, you're going to have to order another one. You don't want to do that. On your A pillar, it's basically going to be the same thing. You're just going to set it up here and trial and error and such. Now this right here though is very specific. This is where your lower bolt is going to go for your front fender. So a lot of times what I like to do on this to make sure it's in the right spot, before I weld this guy in, I'm going to go ahead and bolt the fender on. I'm actually going to bolt this on and make sure it's in the right spot before I finish off my welds. So take your time, think it out, you'll be just fine.
All right, we got a lot of work done on this C10 pickup truck, and one thing I learned this week by Dave is I want to continue turning wrenches. I don't ever want to do body work again. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But I'll tell you what, it is a bit frustrating. It'll take you some time, but you can do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what we did was we got enough metal for this gentleman. Hopefully he'll watch the show, learn some tips from us, and he can go do the rest of the rust repair on his truck. And he can buy those parts, and so can you, from Brothers Truck Parts. They got all the metal and all the other parts you need for your 1947 to 1987 Chevy pickup truck.
Now, go out there and cut up some metal, man. There you go.
Stick around. After the break, Sam and Kevin will get to working on the Buick Skylark's exhaust system. Up next, Sam and Kevin Ford will work on installing the exhaust system on the Buick Skylark.
Well, here we are, one of the most exciting parts of the engine swap. The exhaust is about to go in, so you know we're on the tail end of this project.
That's right. We went with the 3-inch exhaust because we got all the horsepower of this motor, and it's all stainless, and it's built for this car.
Yep. And Flowmaster does a really good job by making the back half of the car's system for the car, but they give you the options up front to adapt to any long tube headers.
That's right.
And you guys, just like any other project, just when you think you're towards the end of the project, there's always a couple of items that you have to go through and overlook and you've got to complete.
Yeah, there's a few things we got to finish, like the details with the gas pedal. We've got the cooler lines and a couple of little wires to hook up here and
Totally forgot
there.
about the cooler lines, the pedal, the oil dipstick.
That's
So
right.
when you get Matt and Travis to help us put this exhaust up, Matt's going to MIG weld it in place.
Yep, just double check everything and we'll be good to go.
All right, Matt and Travis, we're ready for you.
Like Sam said, in these universal systems, I mean, they're not universal, but they're made to fit different engine locations, you know. So we start at the back, we come forward, very minimal modification that we have to make to this pipe.
Cuts.
Two cuts.
That's incredible, considering most cases you need a couple of bends, you have to do some cutting and welding and really use your head. Flowmaster did a great job designing this and matching up the hooker headers in the front.
Yeah, and I mean, 3-inch exhaust for a stock car, that's impressive.
Absolutely, and you guys were able to fit it through the axles and everything.
Yeah, over the axle.
You're doing a great job. You and a friend, depending on the friend, can knock this out in 2 to 3 weekends
Yeah.
if you don't work every day.
Yeah, especially if you've got like some friends that know what they're doing, a professional like Matt helping us with this welding, having a good welder, like that Miller welder.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really helps a lot.
It made the job really nice. The exhaust turned out really nice. 3-inch exhaust tucked up underneath this
Yeah.
old Buick. Usually a muscle car, you can see the exhaust hanging down. It scrapes
Yeah.
over speed bumps. This is nice and tucked.
Well, you know, we got this notch tank as well from Holly. It worked out really well to help clear this 3-inch exhaust, and it had room for the large fuel pump for the extra horsepower.
And it's baffled on the inside. Very important for a fuel injection application, especially when you're making a whole bunch of power. Now, you do want to go through and check out the entire project, making sure you haven't missed anything. For instance, from here I can see there's a couple of zip ties over there that I got to cut off. This tank, we had to remove it 3 to 4 times with dirty hands. You can see fingerprints all throughout it. This is all very expensive investment. Make sure you clean off everything, make sure you checked everything, everything's tucked up and bolted away.
Yeah, I mean, we came through, we left clamps on both sides of this so that if we ever need to take these out, we can, if we want to make any adjustments. But we hard welded some of the seams. Even though it's a universal kit, we wanted to make sure it was sealed up and we didn't get all that O2 and whatnot
Absolutely.
coming into the car.
This cross member is probably one
Oh
of my
my
favorite
gosh.
pieces on the car.
Yeah, they really put some homework in on this one. Comes up, follows the floor, clears 3-inch exhaust.
3-inch, and it gives you all this room to clear exhaust. Usually you'll see cross members with just a notch and you have to
Yeah.
figure out a way to get through that hole, you
Yeah.
know? This is a very nice setup. It comes universal for a 4L60 or an 80.
Yeah.
Came with the mount, and the mount kit that comes with this from Holly was absolutely
Yeah.
superb.
And it
Look
bolts
at those
in.
headers. It bolts right in.
Yeah.
No
The headers
cutting.
are unreal.
Really, 1 7/8 primaries to fit up in here and clear everything. Little bitty clearance issue right here at the bell housing because we're using a 4L80. If you were using a 4L60, you wouldn't have that problem at all. It would clear no issues. But we just got to take off like literally a few millimeters. You can almost see an air gap there.
Yeah, we could easily get in there and take that out.
All right, we got the exhaust done on our 68 Buick Skylark engine swap. Kevin, Matt, and Travis did a great job of installing that exhaust and tucking it up under this car.
Yeah, while you were doing all the auxiliary work with the wires and buttoning things up with the starter and all that different thing, we went from the back to the front with the exhaust. It's a really good system. It's somewhat universal, so we can move that engine front to back. And so we cut it, we got everything clamped in, adjusted it. Matt came back in and welded all the good seams for us. Put flanges in so we can get the exhaust back out if we need to. and it just buttons up real nice.
And you know, Flowmaster has been doing a great job for so many decades. For them to come on and do that 3-inch exhaust and tuck it up the way it tucks up with the transmission pan, the hooker headers, everything worked out so great. This may be one old school muscle car that does not scrape over speed bumps.
That's right. The headers are above the scrub line. Everything looks awesome. Yeah. We even talked about painting it black so nobody can tell.
That's going to be a real sleeper. Like I said, we got to keep that exhaust quiet, I think, just so people have no idea that a 700 horsepower Skylark just pulled up next to them to the light and it's going to pretty much beat them. So soon we'll be buttoning up everything and we'll be cranking this thing.
And loading it on trailer.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
When we return, the highly anticipated Hudson Hornet rebuild project will be back on Sam's Garage. Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by Brothers Truck Parts. Welcome back to Sam's Garage, where we continue working on the Hudson Hornet project. Sam, along with Doug Harris, will install the fully restored interior back in the Hornet.
I'm with Doug Harris from H&M Saw and Jay Stitch from Jay Stitch Upholstery. Now, in my opinion, the interior is the most important part of any restoration because you spend so much time in the car.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Jay, I can't even tell you the job you did. Like, this is impeccable. And you had to make your own foam. You had really nothing to work with.
It was tedious.
Lots of measurements, right?
Yes, measurements, that's the key.
And you know, even though you're doing something like this and we went back and forth with each other trying to get this right, there's always something that you come across where you may have to go back and say, like you said this morning, the kick panels aren't there.
Right.
And the B pillars he had to do on the spot because they weren't there. The body guy had them. So whenever you're doing a restoration, there's always back and forth going on. But you got to do it to get a good, final, beautiful product.
Yeah, Jay, and the foam you used in this, when I sat down on it, is so comfortable. We're going to be doing the great race, so we want to be comfortable on it. And the job, outstanding.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I love the fact that you used leather.
Yes.
The colors you went with.
Yes.
I know you came back and forth with me several times making sure you want to get the colors correct.
Right.
You did a good job on that. And the headliner is suede. So that is pretty cool. You know, to update the fabrics inside the car is a good job. The carpet looks period correct.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and start installing the interior.
So guys, when you using the glue gun, what you want to do is regulate it to 65 PSI to get you a nice strong spray. And you want to spray the glue to both sides of the panel and give it a minute to dry before you stick it on. It will take about 2 minutes. I usually use 2 minutes to dry before I stick it. These door panels are actually made from scratch. I had to take a few measurements. You have to always measure twice to be sure. Everything came out great. It's definitely a challenge, but it came out pretty good. I love it. Also, the headliner. Had to make this headliner from scratch, and that turned out fairly well also.
Jay, this looks so good in here with the panels all done, the headliner all done.
Thank you.
You guys took some time to do that headliner. I saw you.
Oh, yes.
You have a couple days in that, but it's worth it. It's tedious, takes time. And I noticed you have a box of razor blades. When you're doing interior work like this, you always want to use a nice sharp razor blade, right?
Yes.
So when you're cutting the edges.
Yeah, they dull out quick. So yeah, you need a whole box probably to do this. Takes a whole box.
Absolutely. What do you think, Doug? It looks good, doesn't it?
I'm impressed. I'm looking at the detail work onto it, the stitching, everything on it. I mean,
Even something like this. This goes right here on the seat and covers the area that the seat doesn't cover. And he was able to, this was still in place even though the carpet was out. And look how nice he did on that. All leather. Every inch of this interior is leather.
Yes.
Very good job. Look at the armrests on the rear side panels. Very cool.
It's very cool. You know, I'm looking at all of this thinking, my God, I think it's nicer than my house.
All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to put all the trim up, put the weather stripping up. And the last thing we're going to do on the interior is going to be the assembly of the rear bench seat and the front seat, putting the mechanism back in. And I still have my access hole to fill up my transmission.
Stay tuned to the next episode of Sam's Garage, where we continue to work on the Hudson Hornet and Buick Skylark projects.